morning, Internet, and welcome back to the reading of the Master List of Logical Fallacies with Alan Mueller, Bryce Barnett, and Sarah Leff. Today we are on number 102, the Post Hoc Argument.
The post hoc argument. 102. Here we go. Also, post hoc propter hoc. What? Post hoc ergo propter hoc. These are I'd prefer to call it the alternative names just because they're just so absurd. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. Or too much of a coincidence, or the clustering illusion. The classic paranoid fallacy of attributing an imaginary causality to random coincidences, concluding that just because something happens close to, at the same time as, or just after something else, the first thing is caused by the second. Example, AIDS first emerged as an epidemic back in the very same era when disco music was becoming popular. That's too much of a coincidence. It proves that disco caused AIDS. Correlation does not equal causation. Oh, this is good.
Wow.
I just like it's just AIDS is for me the funniest part about AIDS is that it's always spelt in all capitals. So I never read it as just regular just AIDS. I read it as like AIDS, like very
Eat!
Yeah.
like next to everything else. Okay. Um yeah, I mean, how about is this one that I've done where something
Yes,
happens right after another and then I'm like this is they're too close to be a coincidence.
yes. In fact,
When?
everything we talked about last week is this.
No, I don't think so. Happening too close to? Oh, I guess it is. I guess it is.
You, you, you,
I'm thinking of
this is
like
a thing you do often.
I'm thinking of like this one being I'm thinking of something happening one moment, like a lightning striking in one place, and then someone farting, and it's like, oh, that person they fart every time lightning strikes. It's too much of a coincidence. I was thinking more of like that
Okay.
type of
Yeah, so
thing.
they gave a really obviously wrong example here just so you could understand the fallacy, but it doesn't have to be something that is completely on other sides of the planet. Um, I it I think a good example for this that I think they intentionally didn't do was um, when AIDS was emerging was also the time that gay people were getting more noticed and getting more civil
Yeah,
rights.
yeah,
And so they were connecting AIDS to being gay.
yeah,
So that was another one.
yeah.
So I think they intentionally didn't put that as an example because uh, someone could have misread that and thinking that um, this fallacy is saying that that is true, and it's not.
Mm.
So they were giving a very obviously false example.
Yeah.
Um,
I wish they had done the that one because that would have been more accurate. But
yes, but accurate to the fallacy that was made at
Yes.
the time.
actually committed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. But I understand. Yeah. So yeah, this one, yeah, so what you're saying, the one that I commit is that in what I call prayer or praying, and then something happening thereafter, like, oh, too much of a coincidence. These things must be related or correlated, is what you're
That's some of them. There was another story you told me at a Tony Robbins event of like a woman that you were next to that like you hugged and it was this really powerful moment and she didn't even speak English kind of thing and back when you told me that story you're like that's too much of a coincidence that like I believe the term was energy frequency whatever term you use you're like that has to be real because of that and
at the time.
that
No,
is
at that time with that story it was a statement of God being real for me. That was what I
oh that was a God
Mm.
being real one.
yeah.
Oh,
Back then I wasn't really as much into energy and frequency. At that time, I was because I remember exactly what you're talking about. It was when there was this exercise that we were doing, and I was like not feeling it, not really I remember we were getting ready to do the exercise, and a part of me was like emotionally exhausted. Like I was like, I can't do this. Like I was like, I don't, this isn't authentic. I'm not feeling actually in this moment. And I remember in my head being like, man, I really wish someone would like come and support me right now was like the thought, but I hadn't, I was like, that's not a thing. It's not going to happen. And then within about 5 seconds of that thought, it was very immediately thereafter, which is hilarious because that's like literally what this thing is saying. Um, Someone came up to me, had completely foregone the exercise for themselves. This was an apex moment in this day of the event. So this person decided to completely not do the exercise for themselves and were holding me, placing their hands on my back and just supporting me in my own process. And I'm like, this is a crowd of 5,000, or at the time it was a crowd of 8,000 people, 8,000 human beings. It's fucking dark. Like no one can see anything or anyone else. There's no like the fact that this human being could even navigate to me in the first place was ridiculous. So it was like all those variables all together. It was the fact that the thought happened, you couldn't see anything. They came to support, and afterward, they didn't even speak English. I was like, how did they like there were just so many things. Like they like it's such an intimate thing if you think about it. They didn't we had never even introduced each other at all. So like she didn't know who I was. I didn't know who she was. She as a random woman walked up to a random man and supported him in a moment that he was going through something without asking, without talking about it in exactly it was just like what the hell? It was what so that to me like it was there were so many variables. It wasn't like it was just, oh, I thought about it. It was like there were like 15 variables, and I'm like all of these together. There's like it's ridiculous. And so it was deeply emotional, and it was one of those moments that for certain to this day I look and I go, it was such a deeply emotional, personal, intimate moment that it was one of those things that had me go, there's there I believe there is something greater that is organizing all of this than just me and my little brain. So yeah, there was, and back then I would have called that I called that God, and when I said God back then, it would have had a much more Christian lens around it. Now, if I were to call it God, I would call it has a different lens around it, but still the same idea that it was a moment where I really believed that it settled into me this idea that there's something more going on than just logic in my brain.
What year was that?
That was 2019.
Oh shit. Yeah, because I remember when you told me that story, you definitely didn't say God at all to me
Oh,
in the
interesting.
story. So yeah, I didn't get that part.
Hmm.
Interesting. 2019. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so long ago.
Yeah. It's wild.
Well,
Yeah.
I heard the story like in 2022, 2023.
Oh, then I might have said back then I was super heavy on the energy shit. So if I told you in 22 or 23, then I probably said energy or whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
You went from God to energy and frequency back to God again, but in a different way.
Yeah, not with the the Christian Catholic or any particular religion's like constraint on it. It's more of a hybrid type thing. My at least my idea of it, my concept of it.
Yeah, I think that your ability to adapt to new information and changing your worldviews is very powerful. So
Maybe.
definitely keep doing that. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Seeking truth.
yeah, that as never take away how powerful that moment is for you. That 2019 story.
Yeah, nothing ever could. Nothing ever could.
Okay. So I just want to like I'm gonna this is not an attack. This is a fallacy thing.
I know.
That whole story is this one.
No.
Doesn't mean that the conclusion is false. If there is a God exists regardless or not whether that's a fallacy. But all those things, uh, are non sequiturs. They don't like point to it's just
Yeah,
like it's the assumption of like, wow, so
totally.
much is happening. I need an explanation. I have no idea how this could be explained any other way. There must be a god or energy or whatever.
Whatever
Insert
the fuck.
thing here.
Right. Well, the difference I think for me is like I don't, for me, when something like that happens to me personally or in my life personally, and I've had many experiences similar to that in different contexts, I don't then take that information and say, God, this means that it is universally true that there is a God, therefore I must go and tell everybody else how to think based off of my personal experience. It's like no, in that was a beautiful experience that happened to me individually, of which I have derived some individual curiosities and beliefs about my own life and my own experience of the world. But like truly, I also believe that if somebody like firmly is asserting and believes wholeheartedly that God does not exist in any way, shape, or form, then he won't. Like I believe that we shape our reality in the most like real sense. And so if somebody like truly like wants to shape their thoughts around this idea that there's no caring force outside of them, there's nothing that's organizing any intelligence whatsoever. It's all random chance, coincidence, mathematics, and physics, and that's how the thing works, and they're like happy and satisfied with that explanation, then I believe that's how the world's going to work for them. So it's like, I don't have it, and I believe that truly each of us has that much power over our own reality and everything that surrounds it. So
Yeah. So
I don't, yeah.
metaphorically, totally agree. Is that was that whole what you just said? Is that like literal or like more like the impression that the way you see the world affects how you get it back at you, or are you saying your interpretation of the world literally changes the world around you? You're not saying that, right?
No, 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 no. I'm not saying
Okay.
that it changes the world in terms of the things that happen, but one's interpretation of reality becomes their reality.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to like be sure.
hmm
So cool.
So who am I to go around and just because I've had some experiences that I've created an interpretation of reality to say your interpretation is wrong. And that's what I think most religions do very much incorrectly. It's like if their ultimate goal is to have people come to God, come to this idea of God, it's not going to happen by telling everybody what God is and isn't. That just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So let me reflect on this one. Post hoc argument. So, I feel like this one it does other things too. Like a lot of these fallacies, they break up into very like specific scenarios, and then other fallacies are more umbrella, and they include like a lot of different fallacies that you would consider different, but have the same pattern of organization. So, to my understanding, uh, post hoc argument. I don't know if this is different from post hoc rationalization or if it's the same thing, but I think it is the same thing. Uh, where you might have a situation that goes against something that you personally believe, and so the evidence is against you, and in your brain, uh, you are dealing with cognitive dissonance where you realize, okay, what I believe is wrong, but I believe this evidence is true. So I can either change my beliefs based off the new evidence, which is the thing you're supposed to do, or I can double down on the thing that I know is wrong and find some weird curvy way to like misinterpret the evidence so that it still fits what I originally believed, so I don't have to change my belief. Um I think that is also falls under this one, if I understand that correctly. But I think that is called post hoc rationalization, but I don't know if that is a different one on this list. There's so freaking many. Um, so I'm just gonna assume. I feel like they're close enough. Because they're both post hoc. So I think that's this one.
On the post hoc argument, I see this a lot with vaccines. Like anti-vaxxers try to be like, "Oh, my kid got injured from a vaccine, so all vaccines are bad." Or like, I saw one recently. It just popped up on my like news feed. I don't even follow the person, but it popped up, and it was a video of their kid having a seizure, and they said that it was because they got vaccinated that they were having the seizure. And so then they went on this like whole thing about how vaccines cause autism, how vaccines lead to injuries, and I'm just that I'm sorry that this happened to your kid, but that's a generalization and it's reminding me of this fallacy, and it's like what does it say? Oh, correlation does not equal causation. Like that brought red flags to me when I saw that. I was like, yeah, I don't think we should be saying that. Like,
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of people that think that that is adequate evidence,
yeah.
and it's not. A thing happening and like someone getting a vaccine and then a bad thing following does not mean the vaccine caused that thing to happen. The second event was likely to happen regardless. So in
Mhm.
that scenario, that kid was likely to just have a seizure anyways. That I've heard stories of like, yeah, so my grandpa got a vaccine and then he died. Vaccines killed him. Like, no, that's not how that works. If you're gonna determine something like that, you need to use the scientific method.
Mhm.
You need to have, let's say, 200 people, give 100 people the vaccine, and then give 100 people a placebo, and then see the results. And if it turns out, oh my god, this was on like Professor Dave where he showed the results of vaccines when it came to COVID, um, and it showed that two people died from the placebo, or they died after they took the placebo, not from the placebo. But people were like, "Oh my gosh, the vaccine killed him!" Like, no, that was nothing. That was air. That was water in a pill. Like that, it was literally nothing. So, are we just gonna ban placebos now? We're gonna ban water? Like, no, that's not. That is not how that works. Um, Correlation does not equal causation. You need to have a causative thing. So, if there was a specific scenario where outside of the margin of error, this is why the margin of error is important in mathematics. Um, Outside of that, then you could have a statistical enough of a statistical mass to say, okay, this is more linked to the vaccine. There's something to look at here. Um, that is what science does. That's how we distinguish correlation, mixing it up with causation, because people do that all the time. Um, in the last episode, we were talking about prayer and Alan's uh, method of determining, yeah. So prayer, as in like Alan's ritual, to the positive effects that he's looking for in his life, and the explanation, or I guess the what I called an inadequate experiment was Alan doing the ritual and then him noticing the thing happening. And the reason why
Hmm.
that's inadequate is because that is actually this. It is 102, the post hoc argument, where he did a thing and then a thing happened, and you need way more numbers doing the same thing over and over again, not just himself. And But because it is a when it's a personal thing, it's really convincing to that person that those things are correlated. You could say that if you have enough of a statistical um, uh, word uh, advantage of having a large group of people. If you're having 200 people do it versus 200 people not doing it and looking at the results, then you can take a look at that. But yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't. It's not scientifically adequate to do it with one person. Like I said, that's fine. Do it. We know things in like sports where people have like lucky socks or lucky charms and they perform better. Does that mean it literally makes them better? No, but it matters to them, and whatever the magic feather is that gets them to perform better, do it. It doesn't, like I think Alan's ritual is great and he should keep doing it. I think other people should do it. But that doesn't mean necessarily mean that like that is the thing. It could be a number of things that you could also do that trigger the part of your brain to receive better, uh, not luck, but circumstances that are beneficial for you in life. Um, Anyways, that was a little bit of a rant there, but Alan, any other thoughts or in response to what I said?
Yeah. So the question I have, it's more of a curiosity. So if one person's life, if they go from a certain quality of life and their life has followed a certain trend for the entirety of their life,
Mm-hmm.
and then they make a singular change and their life legitimately changes. And then if someone were to ask them, how did your life change? And they said, this one change, would that be an invalid uh if that person said this is what I changed, but if the thing as an example was if it was I focused on Jesus, someone says that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the person and if in fact the person's life prior to that and their experience of life was sad, miserable, not like just not good. And then they're like,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden they go from that to a multimillionaire. They're happy as hell. They have everything they want. They're totally fulfilled. And then someone says, "Hey, what's the secret?" And they said, "I focused on Jesus the whole time and it worked." Does that mean that's invalid, or is like I'm curious like how that lands for you? Because for me, it's like, yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious the answer.
Okay, yeah, I have a solid answer for this.
Yeah,
Technically, yes. And the reason why is because you can swap out Jesus for Allah. You could swap it out for Buddha. You could swap it out for anything that like
sure,
made that person feel that way. So
sure.
so you can say the story of my life was horrible. This was the thing I changed. Now it's better. That's fine, absolutely fine. The fallacy is when you said, therefore, Jesus made my life better. That
Oh,
is the cause. That's the
yeah,
fallacy. That's the line in the sand.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So
But
yes.
wait, so wait, but if I say that if someone asks me what is the thing that I changed, and I said I started focusing on Jesus, and then it got and
Yeah.
like and then it got better. Like, is there anything wrong with that? Is that like break
No.
the rules?
That's not breaking the rules. But it would be more. But now knowing this fallacy, it would be more intellectually honest to say, now my life could have been better for a number of reasons, but I didn't do other things. I did this thing. So like
Hmm.
it could be something else. Like for example, me accepting Jesus into my life simply just made me feel more valuable, and that was the key that I was missing in life. That I was missing my value,
Got
and
it.
And I would argue that that is significantly more important of somebody feeling like they have more of a purpose. I think that really matters. So
Mm.
it could be Jesus. It could be Jesus leading to a thing which got the better result. So,
Yeah.
but the fallacy is I did this thing changed, therefore they are causative. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
that is a it's a correlation, not a causation.
Yeah.
So,
Because
yep.
even in like my own situation, right? Like there the amount of things that I have changed, done, like it's not as simple as, as I focused on Jesus.
Hmm.
It's not nearly that simple. There's so many more things that I've done. However, when people ask that question, they're always looking for one answer. They're never it's like a complex answer is never acceptable. What did you do? And it's always in the frame of what's the one thing you changed that had everything
Yeah.
come together. And it's like it's actually like 1.5 million data points, but I know that's not what you're asking for. So I'm going to give you an answer that is a good answer that's accurate to my experience, but it doesn't capture the full breadth of the thing because you're not asking for the full breadth. You're asking for this one trick or one thing that you're hoping is going to give you a complete life difference. It's like, so yeah, that to me is like a fascinating thing because it's like if I were to have to answer and give someone the one thing in my own experience, and I want to be clear, when I refer to Jesus, it's not the Christian coded Jesus. It's not the Catholic coded Jesus. There's much more to it that I study and I'm curious about. But it's like,
Oh, by the way, did you? I sent you the link to the Apocrypha, because Alan wants to learn more about anything Jesus, and so
yeah,
there's more to Jesus than that's in the Bible.
yeah, yeah.
There's so yeah, I don't know if you saw that the
Yeah, there's
Apocrypha.
also like I haven't read the Apocrypha yet, but there's also like a whole other like perspective on Jesus and what he taught and who he was that completely contradicts the entire Bible in terms of like how Jesus was, which is super fascinating.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, there are parts of the Bible that contradict Jesus's personality because at the beginning of the New Testament, Jesus is like, "All right, I'm going to do this miracle, but like, don't tell anybody."
yeah.
And then later, he's like, "Look at all the miracles I do," and like, that's what he does. So, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. But it's like if I were to at this point, like if someone were to ask me what's the one thing that you changed, I would say to them in this stage of my life, from where I was to where I am now, and in terms of the quality of life, I would say that I constantly focused and studied on Jesus, but not the Christian Jesus. I was like really curious on who he was, how he was the way he was, why he did what he did, and what would he have been like in terms of his active way of being every single day and a practical application, not in a principle standpoint, but how would have been moment by moment by moment based off the information that I'm coming to understand about him. And so it's like, and that has, from that lens, has driven all of the changes and all of the alterations and everything that I've ever done. And so it's like that would be the answer, but it's not the answer because the truth is it's the culmination of all those other actions. But if someone wanted to know that one answer, it's like, well, it's by focusing and asking myself, what would this person do? And then it's like, well, they would do all this. Okay, great. Well, then that's what I'll do. So anyway, that whole thing, all this I find very interesting and fascinating because it's like it seems like those type of answers are more applicable to the individual human psyche, as in finding one thing to focus on. But the application, which is with the multifaceted application, which is far more complex, is so much more difficult to capture, I feel.
Hmm.
And it's like, I feel as though that often, and I could be wrong on this, and I'm actually curious for your perspective, and I know we only have 4 minutes to discuss it, but um, that science hyper focuses on trying to identify the multi-dimensional faceted what are all the things that led to the thing in a practical step-by-step process. While for me, I see the human the what I feel to be more true in the human application is not to focus on a million things, but what's the one thing that by focusing on it impacts the million things is what
Yeah,
I
no,
more
yeah.
actually
So
applicable.
I think that there might be a little bit of a misunderstanding of science because the
Yeah.
thing that the second option is more scientific than the first option. So, for example,
Yeah.
if there's a correlation to because we know for sure there's a correlation to believing in Jesus, for example, and being happy. And so like, what it like we know that for sure.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what causes that to happen? And so we look at the people who believe in Jesus and we're like, okay, um, what part of it makes you happy? And then they'll say there are things we have all this data. Okay, let's do a control experiment where we test somebody from Hinduism, from Islam, and see are they happy? Yes, they
Mm.
are. Oh, why are they happy? Or
Mm.
is it a different degree of happiness? Oh, it's the same. Oh,
Mm.
it's the same. That's the control experiment. Um, so it narrows it down to simply just finding your own value uh, is uh, uh, is the thing that makes you happy. Out of all of these fallacies, if there was any one fallacy that Alan Mueller did the most, it is this one. Um, I have seen you over a pretty long period of time,
Yeah.
and so many like literally at every moment throughout your whole life that I have known you,
Yeah.
you've always just recently had an epiphany. Like always, always you're like, I figured it out. I figured it out. And then the next month later, it was like, no, that was stupid. Now I
Yeah.
figured it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's always that. And the reason is because this is what's happening. Is you're like this happened and this happened. It was so obvious. And then you learn that oh wait maybe it wasn't that thing. And so if you remember when we worked at Vector, you said this thing to me that you're like, it all people have to do is just believe in themselves and then they're successful. Like that's all it fucking takes. And I'm like, yeah, that's the thing. And so like whatever it is that gets you to believe in yourself, whether it be Jesus or the energy or the frequency or whatever it is, it ultimately comes down to you had a mindset change that got you into better action that got you to do the thing, and you were in a slump before that, right? So yeah, I would say that that is one that you should study. Really, really think on that one because I think that's the this is the biggest area of growth for you is this one.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Also want to I want to paint to be really clear too on the Jesus thing that it's not a devout religion thing and it's also not a he's the only answer and he's the only one and everything else sucks and is wrong. I want to be super clear.
Yeah,
I believe in the teachings of all great spiritual teachers like Buddha, like Allah, like I mean not Allah,
not all,
no, it's not a that's Allah
definitely not
Allah
Yahweh.
Allah is not the teacher. It's oh gosh, why am I missing it right now? Who the hell? Muhammad. So these all these different teachers. It's like they all have made massive and beautiful contributions to knowledge and wisdom. And so I don't. It's not about he's the only one. I just personally happen to be fascinated by and obsessed with who Jesus was, how he lived, and the way he was being. But it's not a he's the only answer type thing.
Very good. Read the Apocrypha. You're gonna love it. Yeah, we that is our time. Hope that was fun. I like that one, and I'll see you guys next time.
Amazing. See you, family.